Look at that. Congratulations. Oh, every time I see Selena on TV. Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, those are tough to put in the first time. Oh gosh, I'm warmed up. Yes, please. It's not that you're perfume over hours. Yes, I don't. Okay, thank you. I'm not even, am I?
So we have Savannah is going to be doing a little preview. So okay, well, very good. So she's going to be coming up for the Hatzikak. Yeah.
Okay. All right. You just look at me if I need to see.
Right. Okay.
We have the sound people today.
We do. Mindy is all set up.
I definitely did not see that coming.
No, no one sees it coming. I'm like the Spanish Inquisition. My power is surprise and fanatical devotion to the Pope. Or my three, no, it's surprise, fanatical devotion to the Pope. And yeah, no. Shalom, everyone. I've been told an explanation is in order. And so let me just clarify that very soon, Monday is the actual holiday, but on Sunday, we will be celebrating the holiday of Purim, the Jewish carnival. And it just seemed appropriate to take this opportunity to foreshadow what is coming. Now, you may think that this is totally random, but it is not totally random. I had two choices. I could wear this or I could wear my kilt. However, I realized that right now the state legislature here in Texas is considering a law in which any institution that has men in women's clothing and serves alcohol will be labeled an adult-oriented institution. I don't want that to happen to Kol Ami. So instead, I'm going to refer back to my sermon from last week, in which we talked about the mysterious creature being used to help build the Mishkan called a tachash. And as I explained at the time, we don't know exactly what a tachash looks like. However, some of the early commentators said that it was some kind of creature with a happy or joyful hide. All right. And by the Middle Ages, they determined that it was going to be a unicorn. And so here I am representing the tachash, the skin of the tachash that would be used to make our joyful portable sanctuary in the desert. So this is not random. This is carefully conceived. It's also the case that I know, for example, that Aiden, where's Aiden? Aiden loves unicorns. And so in order to just honor him, I thought I would wear this. So anyway, and I've just been brought this wonderful material. It's called Elf, and apparently my forehead shines too much. Here. Now, do I look more normal? Thank you. All right, very good. All right, we're going to begin our Shabbat by taking just a moment to do a nigun. And for our guests, most of you may be familiar with this, but if you're not, a wordless melody, a tradition from the Hasidic Jewish community that we use a wordless melody in order to put us more in the Shabbat mood. So would you get us started?
No one will hear me through this, will they? Can I use that one?
Oh, you may absolutely use that one. I can't hear a thing with this on my head. So.
Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la. La ya la la ya la 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 ya la ya la la ya La 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 la.
So, we have many visitors tonight, and one of the customs here at Congregation Kol Ami is that we take a little time at the beginning to reacquaint ourselves as a community, to orient ourselves back to the things that are happening to the people around us we maybe have been disconnected from and for the week past. So what we do here is what we call Tov Uvracha, good and blessing. I invite you to share with me, share with the congregation, any good and blessing that has happened to you in the last week, an anniversary, a birthday, but it doesn't have to be a big deal. I mean, if you had a particularly fabulous tuna fish sandwich in the last 6 days, you feel free to share it with us and help us appreciate the fact that the world is full of things we need to be grateful for. So we are grateful here at Congregation Kol Ami for several things. First of all, Bert and Joanne Barnes this past week celebrated their anniversary. So we want to wish them a mazel tov. We also want to congratulate these individuals who had a birthday in the past week. Daniela Banier, Carter Cagle, Lindsay Kamer, Brian Hoffman, Coffee Born, Jack Kamer, and George Gittens. So a mazel tov to all of them. And now, if you have something, anything pleasing to report, something that uplifted your life ever so briefly in the past week, please feel free to share it with us. I'm going to start on this side of the room. Anything going on? No, nothing. No, just a miserable gray. Yeah, I understand. I understand. All right. How about over here? Anybody have a good? Yes.
Well, it's a good blessing and oh my gosh, I can spend more money than my son passed his driving test.
Yes. Yep.
Ready to pass it.
Insurance is definitely going up. Quite frankly, at 6'2", you may have to get a larger car. Right. So, but that's very exciting. Anybody else on this side of the room have a good doctor?
My wife and I just cruise to South America and Antarctica.
Antarctica. All right. Did you have a chance to get a taste of penguin? Okay. Well,
We saw quite a few penguins and whales.
Right. Okay. Well, that's fantastic. And the great good and blessing, which I called your attention to, is what? That you have been on all 7 continents. I mean, how many people in this room can claim to have been on all 7 continents? And oh, look at that. Okay. More than I anticipated. So, but you're still in a very select group. So that's very impressive. All right. Who on this side of the room has a good and blessed, please? Mazel tov. That's fantastic. And which congregation was this? In Plantation. I know Plantation. Very good. Well, mazel tov to you and your family. How about you? Awesome. Grandmothers take priority. Did you want to add something?
Everybody made it here despite the storm.
Outstanding. All right, Betty. Okay. Jake. No, if this brings you joy, you know, as Maria Kondo would say, if it brings you joy, this is what we're looking for.
Grandma number 2.
Uh-huh.
To have our family together.
Mm-hmm.
Also, our other grandparents just accepted to medical school.
Mazel tov, double mazel tov. Fantastic. All right. Who else on this side of the room? Gil. See, these are the small things that make life better, right? It's just every little triumph that we should be grateful for. All right. Anybody else? Nobody. Everybody else is just sort of living in that limbo zone of Dissatisfaction, satisfaction, I understand. Okay. Well, so for me, a couple of things. First of all, I am adapting to my hearing aids, so that's a good blessing. Second of all, I am very pleased that despite the storm that struck us last night, that my owl box is still upright and my owls are still secure. So we're expecting owlets at any moment. And finally, I'm just excited that you're all here with us to be able to celebrate this wonderful young lady's coming of age. We're delighted to be able to host this, and we're delighted you'll be able to be with us. So what I'm going to orient you to now is our prayer book. For those of you who have not encountered, this is our congregational prayer book. We use ourselves. We made ourselves. We're going to be going to page 1, and it's my privilege to invite up Andrea. And do you want to come on up? All right, come on up to kindle the lights of Shabbat. We're going to be on page 1. That's where we're going to start our service, everybody.
In the beginning, when the Spirit of God hovered over the darkness, God's first creation was light. As we kindle these Shabbat lights, we attest to the majesty of God's work and rejoice in its beauty. Light is a symbol of divinity and creative goodness. It is the outward sign of that inner spark which God has granted each of us. In hope and with love, we now welcome Shabbat with light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahed likner shel Shabbat. Praised are you, Adonai, whose presence fills the world, who hallows us with mitzvot, and who inspires us to kindle Shabbat lights.
May
God bless us with Shabbat joy. May God bless us with Shabbat holiness. May God bless us with Shabbat peace. Amen.
You've been touched by a unicorn. So, I'm sorry, what's that?
May I get this microphone over here?
Oh, this one's really not, it's not connected at all. Gosh darn it. Okay. Bad microphone. I'll get it for you. Got it. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to continue now with Kabbalat Shabbat, welcoming the Sabbath into our midst. We're going to go ahead and begin on page 2 with Psalm 95. Sometimes we read, sometimes we sing. We'll orient you as we go along. L'chune ranena l'Adonai, Naria l'tzur ishenu, nikadmav panav b'todah, v'tzimurot nira lo. Come, let us sing joyously to Adonai and raise a shout for our rock and our deliverer. Come, let us enter God's presence with praise, and let us raise a shout for God in song. For Adonai is supreme, the supreme being over everything. We turn now to Psalm 97, Or Zeruah. Or Zeruah. Adonai reigns, let the land exult, and the many islands rejoice. Dense clouds surround God. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of God's throne, and God's lightning illumines the world. Light is sown for the righteous, radiance for the upright of heart. O you who are righteous, rejoice in Adonai and acclaim God's holy name. We're going to turn to page 6, Psalm 29, and we're going to continue. Avu l'Adonai b'nei Eli, Avu l'Adonai kavod v'od, Avu l'Adonai kavod shemo, Ishtachavu l'Adonai b'hadrat kodesh, Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. We're going to continue now with the great summary song of entering Shabbat, Lecha Dodi. For those of you who are visitors here at Kol Ami, it is our custom on the final verse, the final stanza, to rise, face towards the door, and metaphorically welcome the Shabbat by bowing. So I think I'm going to designate Steve and I think Dr. Rebecca to open the door on the final stanza and then close it afterwards, if you would do that. All right, Lecha Dodi, page 7, everyone. So rouse yourself, for your light has come. Arise, shine, awaken, awaken, give forth a song. The glory of Adonai is revealed to you. So come in peace, you crown of your husband, with rejoicing and with joy, to those who are faithful, a treasured people. Come, O Shabbat, come, O bride. We're going to now, it's now my privilege to invite up Savannah to take over a short segment of our service, and she is going to lead us in the Hatzi Kaddish on page 9.
Yikadal, Yikada, Shemay Rabba,
Amen.
Be'amad Ivra Kyote, Viamlif Mahute, Yitbarak, Viet Shabbat, Viet Par, Viet Roman, Viet Nase, Viet Hadar, Viet Hale, Viet Halal, she made a kusha, Leolam, Min Kol Bihata, Vishirata, please, guys. Wait.
You go ahead. Baruch Adonai Hamfora Le'olam Adonai.
Baruch
Adonai Elohim melech haolam asher b'toro ma'ariv aravi b'chokhmah poteach sha'arim u'bitmuna mishanei itim u'machalit et hazmanit u'msader et hakokabim b'mishmerotehem barakia kerotzono borei yom v'layla bolel or mipnei hoshech v'hoshech mipnei or Umavir yom bevi laila, umavir ben yom ben laila. Adonai tzvaot shemo, El Hai Kayam Tamid Imlo Aleinu Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Ma'aviv Araviv.
Shema
Yisrael Adonai Elohim.
Please be seated. Be'ahavta, Eitz Adonai Elohecha, B'kol Kol Nafshecha, B'kol Me'odecha, V'hayu Ha'devarim Ha'elah, Asher Savecha, Hayom Al V'shinata, Betty Berta, this is a beta. C10 at comics so time. Me 10 Kedoshim. I Adonai. Asher said yet. Leo Elohim. Please join me. You shall love Adonai your God with all your mind and all your soul and with all your being. These words which I command you to say shall be upon your heart. Teach them diligently to your children. Speak of them in your home, when you lie down and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign upon your head. Let them be a symbol before your eyes. Write them on doorposts of your house and on your gates. Be mindful of all my mitzvot and do them. So shall you dedicate yourself to God. I, Adonai, am your God, who led you out of Egypt to be your God. I, Adonai, am your God.
She did a great job. That's good stuff. We continue now with Emet v'Emunah on page 14. Emet v'Emunah kol zot v'kayam aleinu ki hu Adonai Eloheinu v'ein zulato v'nachnu Yisrael amo. True, enduring, beloved, and precious, awesome, good, and beautiful is this eternal teaching. This truth we hold to be forever certain. Adonai is our ruler, the rock of Jacob, shield of our salvation. Adonai, our God, you redeemed us from Egypt. You set us free from the house of bondage. For this, the people who felt your love sang songs of praise to you. Living God, high and exalted, mighty and awesome, who humbles the proud, raises the lowly, who frees the captive and redeems the oppressed, who is the answer to all who cry out to you. All praise to God Most High, the source of blessing, and like Moses and Israel, we sing this song of rejoicing. Micha Mocha, ladies and gentlemen.
Ya la 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 ya la ya la la.
We take a moment now to think about the close of the day with Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim ufros aleinu sukkah shlomecha. Grant that this night we lie down in peace, Adonai our God, and raise us up tomorrow, O Sovereign, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel, and for your name's sake, be our help. Shield us from hatred and plague. Keep us from war, famine, and anguish. Subdue our inclination to evil. O God, our guardian and helper, our gracious and merciful sovereign, give us refuge in the shadow of your wings. O guard our coming and our going, that always we have life and peace. We praise you, O God, whose sukkah of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. We come now to the next part of our service, tefillah. If able, please rise in body or rise in spirit.
Adonai, I lift my mouth to your praise.
Please be seated. We're going to continue by singing a celebration of this day, the Shabbat. We're going to be doing Vishamru on the top of page 21. The children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, observing it in every generation as an eternal covenant.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. אותי לעולם לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. שמשת ימים השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביום השביעי שבת וינבא ששמרו בני ישראל לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Page 22. Adonai, our God, show favor towards your people and lovingly receive our prayers. May the worship of your people Israel always be acceptable to you, for you alone do we hold in reverence. And we give thanks to you, Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors. You are the rock of our lives, the shield of our salvation in every generation. We thank you and we recite your praises. Let all the living affirm you and praise your name as the God of our salvation and help. Praised are you, Adonai. Goodness is your name. All praises to you. We're going to close out this part of our service with a prayer for peace, Shalom Rav. And immediately afterwards, we invite you just to take a few moments for your own silent prayers and reflections, whatever offerings you have to give of your heart. You may offer it during this time.
Shalom Israel. Shalom Israel. Oh, say, Israel.
So, the unprecedented events of the Shoah, the Holocaust, World War II, overshadow the fact that Jews at the very beginning of the 21st century, throughout the first half of the 21st century, were afflicted with unprecedented violence directed towards us. Whether it was the Great War on the Eastern Front, whether it was the Russian Revolution, the breakup of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Balkans Wars, the Russo-Polish War, things we don't even remember, Jews were suffering. And it was during one of those events that this story gets told, that 3 Jews had been grabbed by a mob of armed anti-Semites, and they've been slammed against a wall. And each one of the 3, one of the people leading the militia that has taken them and is ready to kill them says, do you want a hood? And the first one says meekly, yes, I'll take a hood. And the second one says, yes, I'll take a hood. And the third one says, no, poo on your hood. I don't want that hood. To hell with you both, all of you. And the second one whispers to him, shh, you'll provoke them. Didn't work, huh? Totally didn't work. That was a joke, ladies and gentlemen. He got it. Yeah, right. So anyway, all right. So why am I telling you that terribly, poorly executed joke? Because we Jews are creative people. We have the ability to take our pain and to reinterpret hatred against us by focusing on other things, most often the salvation of our people, rather than the hatred and the persecution. And Purim, which is coming up on Monday, is exactly one of those celebrations where we celebrate defeating hatred, and we defeat it with humor. We mock Haman and dress up in costumes and make Purim the craziest day of the year in terms of Jewish celebrations. It is our way of extracting the pain out of the suffering that anti-Semitism has caused us time and again over the centuries. We have this ability to commemorate the tragic moment and turn it into a salvation story of our history. In the Haggadah, for Passover, we say, not one alone has risen against us, but in every generation there are those who rise up against us to destroy us. But the Holy One of Blessing rescues us from their hands. Now, Purim obviously commemorates one of those events when the people Israel were saved or spared. And Jewish history has a record of communities that actually observe anniversaries to remember a timely release from tyrannical rules or oppressive actions, but also to celebrate an escape from such disasters as plagues, earthquakes, and conflagrations. What is so fascinating about these communities is they often establish observances of a day of deliverance like Purim. These festive occasions were known throughout history as special Purims after the biblical holiday, and they emphasize the spiritual lesson from the original Purim that has helped determine the destiny and the survival of the Jewish people. We have, for example, records of private families who have established special Purims to mark an escape from danger that threatened them or their clan. Families who established these special Purims emulated the original Purim by dispensing tzedakah, charity, to the poor. In synagogues, they might recite special psalms or prayers. They might even create a special Megillah or scroll that they recite, which mimics the style of the book of Esther and retells what happened to them on an annual anniversary of these events. We should remember how strong was the devotion of these families and these communities that they created special Purims. Many times their recollections included the verse from the Megillah, which said, "Relief and deliverance will arise to the Jews from another place." Even when we were frightened for our lives. So if I were to tell you, for example, of a story that concerns our people in medieval Frankfurt, there is something called the Purim Fettmilch. In medieval Frankfurt, in the late 16th, early 17th century, the trade guilds always resented the Jews and planned an attack on the Jewish community. And the leader of the anti-Semites was a baker whose name was Vincent Fettmilch. And then on August 22nd, 1614, these groups attacked the Jewish communities. Now, the Jews, knowing in advance of the attack, were somewhat prepared. They sent the women and children to the local cemetery and locked the gates to the Jewish ghetto to prevent the mob from getting inside. They went to the synagogue and they prayed and they fasted and they waited. Inside the synagogue, they heard the mob break through the gates of the shtetl. They fought back and a fight ensued in which Jews were injured, Christians were injured. Surprisingly, no one was killed. The mob mostly went to the Jewish quarter in order to be able to pillage and strip the houses. The non-Jewish town council was able to temporarily stop this plunder and asked the Jewish community to leave their homes, which they did. The Jews of Frankfurt left and found refuge in surrounding towns and remained in exile from their homes for over a year and a half. Eventually, the crown authorities intervened and they arrested Fettmilch and his band and even beheaded him and the other leaders. The town council transferred the protection of the Jews to the crown, with the shield of the crown put up over the gates, ensuring the safety of the Jewish community. And there was a great celebration that day. Moreover, the crown ordered the community to pay the Jewish people of Frankfurt 175,000 florins for the damage that occurred. So in memory of these events, the Jewish Congregation of Frankfurt, Germany annually celebrated on the 19th of Adar as a fast day commemorative of the departure from the city, and the 20th they called Purim Feldmich in honor of their return. 200 years later in Palestine, in the city of Hebron, ruled then by the Turkish Ottoman Empire, the ruler Ibrahim Pasha decided to attack the Arabs of the city. Now, the Arabs put together an army against the Turk and ambushed the Pasha's forces. The Pasha swore to vanquish and destroy the entire population of Hebron. And the Jews, not surprisingly, were frightened for their lives. They shut themselves in the courtyard and they prayed for God to save them. Now, as it turns out, the Jews escaped the wrath of the Pasha, even while the Arab population was slaughtered by his forces. Why did the Jews escape the vengeance of the Pasha? Apparently, there were Jewish officers and Jewish officials in the service of the Pasha coming out of Damascus who accompanied him and intervened on behalf of the Jewish community and spared them. In memory of this event, the day of the new moon of Av has become a day of rejoicing in Hebron Jewish community, known as the Purim of Ibrahim Pasha. The Jews of Saragossa, Spain, experienced their own salvation. In the 15th century, Saragossa was the capital of the kingdom of Aragon. It was the king's custom to visit the street of the Jews and see the decorated Torahs borne out in decorated wooden cabinets, as was the practice of the Sephardi Jews to this day. For whatever reasons, the Jews decided one year to bring their wooden Torahs out to greet the king, but they didn't contain the Torahs inside. Perhaps they were frightened of something. Maybe they thought their scrolls would be desecrated. A Jew who had converted out of the faith went to the king and informed him the Jews would not bring their Sifrei Torah, their scrolls, out to greet him. So the king decided to make a surprise visit to the Jews of Saragossa and see for himself. Luckily, the word got back to the synagogues. According to one tradition, it came to a Jew in a dream. They received instructions that they should put the wooden Torahs back in the wooden cabinets in anticipation of the king's surprise visit, and thus the informer was shamed. The Jews avoided retribution, and from that day, on the 17th day of Shabbat, the day in which this happened, it was named a second Purim. We teach that you should pray as if everything depends on God and act as if everything depends on you. It's good advice. It seems we have always faced the problem of living in an unpredictable and hostile world. We lived for centuries knowing that we were always vulnerable to an outbreak of hatred. Jews lived precariously. Gentile religious authorities actually were often our best advisors. And whatever the king or potentate, realizing our importance to his community, often protected us. But they were not consistently on our side. and gave in from time to the outbursts of hatred. So we had to take care of ourselves. And yet we see the Jews were not passive in the face of these threats, nor did we forget these stories. We enshrined them in our communal memory. And now, with the existence of the Jewish state, we don't feel quite as vulnerable in the same way. And yet, still, with Iranians seeking nuclear weapons and others who would destroy us, we still pray and prepare even today, so that Israeli and American and other friends will have more stories of what could have happened, but didn't. Some of these stories we know have occurred, but we'll never find out how they happened in order to add them to the canon of stories for years to come, because so much happens covertly these days. And yet we know they exist. The Purim story of defeating the enemy with our strength and the guidance of God exists to guide us even to this day. Now, the word Purim itself comes from the Persian word pur, which means a lot or a random stick that you would pull out in pulling lots. They were picked, and according to the story of Purim, Haman pulled lots in order to pick the fate of the Jews of Persia. One never knows what our fate will be, but I suppose the lesson still rings true that if we can anticipate and prepare ourselves, we will be ready for the next threat. Those things that life's challenges come to us are all about how we play the cards that we are randomly dealt. That is the teaching of Purim, the mystery of Jewish survival, of our deliverance and our faith. So I hope that we all celebrate Purim with better jokes than the one I started out with, and that we find joy in Jewish life, despite our anxieties and our fears. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. All right, it's time for announcements. Is it President Steve who is going to be reading our announcements?
Yes, sir.
It is. Come on up, President Steve.
Thank you, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good evening.
Shalom.
And to all our guests, welcome. It's great to see all these smiling faces here for Savannah on her special day tomorrow. So, for our out-of-town guests, hopefully our storms yesterday didn't hamper your drive in or your flights in. And if you were delayed a little bit, we're glad that you're here. For those of us here in Texas, it's just another small summer or spring storm. So, well, the big announcement, of course, we already know about Savannah's special day tomorrow, which is outstanding. And we look forward to seeing how well that you will represent yourself and becoming a Jewish adult. So also off on that. So on with announcements. We are having our CKA blood drive coming up. CKA is proud to be working with Carter Blood Care once again. We'll be hosting another blood drive on April 22nd. From noon until 4 p.m. You can find the sign up on our website as always. Each hero donation can help up to 3 people, so every drop counts. So if you can donate, please do. We are again reminded that the Frisco Rough Riders are offering group tickets to us. The tickets are available for April 8th at 7:05 p.m. against the Amarillo Sod Poodles on opening weekend.
Yes.
A good sod poodle is hard to find.
A good sod poodle
Yes.
is hard to find. Would you explain to those people from outside Texas what a sod poodle is?
They're prairie dogs.
Prairie dogs.
Yeah,
That's right.
prairie dogs.
They're delicious.
But it sounds much more, saying sod poodles versus prairie dogs. Yeah, that's good. Anyways, so this is their opening weekend. You can find the registration link where on the congregation website, along with all sorts of other information. As a reminder, we still have some open positions on our board. We are always welcoming anyone who'd like to help assist us with the operations of the congregation. If you have any questions or are interested, please reach out to me or any one of our board members. With that, as is customary here at Congregation Kol Ami, we'd like to recognize and see about those that are in need of healing. Is there anyone here in the room that they would like to offer a name? Yes, ma'am.
Paul Davis, Rosemary Odom, Shirley Hayden, Hank Wild, Sylvia Margolis.
Thank you. Yes, Joanne. Thank you, Joanne. Kelly? Thank you. And Lisa Coleman. In addition to that, we have some names that are on the back of your program. And I'll let you read those names at your leisure. If you could join us either on the back of your program or on page 40 of your Siddur for the Misha Barak. Misha Barak, votated for the source of strength, and as the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. With wash them on,
the Spirit, and let us say, Amen. So as we come towards the end of our service, I first of all need to extend an apology to Aiden. I thought that unicorns were your thing, and I realize now the unicorns were Hannah's thing. That's right. You were My Little Pony, right? No? Okay. I'll remember eventually. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're turning now to page 82, for the Elenu. And I'd like to invite up all four members of the family to come on up here with me before the ark. The rest of you, if able, please rise. Come on up, guys. Women on this side, men on that side.
Am I? This side?
You're on the men's side. I need to clarify this. Okay, just step up and pull open the ark. Pull up and away. There we go. Page 82, ladies and gentlemen. Shalom, and the glory all the not you glory, we shall be in our Shehunoten shamayim v'yaseh haaretz u'moshe b'karah b'shamayim Mishkinah v'gotein roni So be a data high on, be a data high on, Bashevos, Elibavel, Iadon, Elohim, Oh, Yeshua. And to you, Sit on down. Please be seated, everyone. Bayom hahu, Yeh Adonai echad, Ushemo echad. Our lives, O God, are in your hands. In you we trust. Whatever may be our destiny, we know that you will be there. And though we may never fathom the mysteries of life and death, we know of your gift of life, which each of us has treasured. So no matter what the final end, let us rejoice in the sweetness of the past and our faith in a life to come. There will we find you, your love, and your blessing. We take time now to recall with love and gratitude the names of those individuals whom we've recently lost, as well as those whose anniversary of death occurs this week. So first of all, we ask about Shiva. Is there anyone here who has lost a loved one in the last 7 days? If so, please share the name with us so that we may include them in our prayers. Here at Congregation Kol Ami, we are thinking of these individuals. We're in the Shloshim of remembering them in the past month. Tim Ragas, Joanne Rodi Ragas, Timothy Ragas, Eric Thornblom, and Sally Kokovich. Is there anyone else who's lost a loved one in the past 30 days? Michael. Thank you. For our yard sites, our anniversary of death connected to this community, we think of the following: Dr. Marcia Bark, Harry Bornstein, Isidore Bornstein, Ellie Durr, Ann Egbert, Herschel Feldman, Hy Greenberg, Ralph L. Harris, Betty Helfman, Pearl Hoffman, Gil Moscow, Mark Nedich, and Donald Potich. Is there anyone else who has an anniversary of death in their family or among their loved ones? The memory of all these people are here with us now, and we also feel sympathy for those who grieve for them. In honor of both those who have died and those who have survived, in our congregation, it's our tradition that we all rise together for Kaddish on page 85. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah, be'alma divrach tirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, Bagalal ubizman kari v'imru, amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mivrach le'olam ulame amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalei v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata dameran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba mim shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mromav uyasei shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the source of peace, who makes peace in places far beyond our understanding, make peace for those who mourn and comfort those who are bereaved. And let us say, amen. Please be seated. And our closing song is going to be, is it SI9? SI9. If you turn to page, 99? I believe it is. Yes, it is page 99, number 15. From the Psalms, I lift up my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, the maker of heaven and earth. SI9. Saenai el harim me'ai yazo esri. Saenai el harim me'ai yazo esri. Esri me Adonai. O say Shamayim v'haaretz, Esri me'im Adonai. עושי שמיים וארץ, אשא עיניי אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי. אשא עיניי אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי. Before we conclude, I just want to share a little preview of what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. It's your bat mitzvah. We are going to be reading from our Torah portion, which includes elements of our ancient system of offerings. Now, in English, we tend to call these sacrifices, but that's not how they were understood in the ancient world. The ancient Israelites understood them to be a moment of communion. By making the offering, we would then sit down and have a meal with God. It was a dinner party with the divine. And so we no longer do that, but we haven't stopped. Now we've just replaced lamb and beef with chocolate chip cookies. So look the service is not over until you've come into the social hall, honored Shabbat and said a blessing with us, and we all get to have a little fellowship together with food. So please come and join us in the social hall. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.